Hello, Trumper4Yang.
Hello, nerds!
Hello, nerds!
Hello, nerds!
Hello, nerds! So nerds!
Hello, nerds!
Now with this campaign,
bang, dang, it's Andrew. Come roll with the Yang Gang.
Hello, nerds.
Hello, nerds!
Welcome to the show, Dennis Trumper4Yang. I know you and I have kind of engaged in conversations with each other from time to time on Twitter, but so glad that we could finally get you on the live stream. Welcome.
This is true. Glad to be here. Thank you.
So you and I were just talking before we got this set up that background behind you is not some fictitious place, but that's actually a photo of you where you live. Is that for real life?
Absolutely, that is right. Actually, outside my bedroom window. So yeah, that's overlooking our property. We escaped the city jungle, and you've shared pictures of your grounds with me too, and they actually look very similar. You just don't have a river running through it, but they look very similar. I love your spot out there.
Yeah, we're blessed. We've been in Switzerland for the last 4 years, but now we're getting ready next month to return to the good old U.S. of A.
To what city?
The San Francisco Bay Area.
Oh, fun stuff. I'm sure you're looking forward to that.
You know, it's interesting in that on the one hand, it's like with Corona, recession, and you know all the protests and stuff, it's a crazy time. On the other hand, as a son of immigrants, I kind of feel like there's no better time to come back and roll up our sleeves and kind of volunteer and engage in the process. It just felt a little bit guilty watching the country kind of turn on itself from thousands of miles away. I mean, do you ever feel like you're in a little bit of an enclave as well, right? Do you ever feel like what's going on in the rest of the country?
That was not an accident, sir. I used to be in the thick of it, but now we can sit from up here and watch as society burns, literally and figuratively. But in all seriousness, the reason that we came up here several years ago is, it was economic. I saw problems happening in cities, but economically, didn't think that it was going to be a global bug trying to get in all of our lungs and then turns into race protests turn riots turn back to protests. But nonetheless, we're up here watching it from afar. And it's Andrew that got me back involved with y'all over there in society land. We came up here just to escape because there's nothing that we could do because we saw that automation is going to be happening. UBI wasn't possible in my mind at that time. We're talking 5 years ago or so. And then that's when I ran into old Andrew. And he made UBI make sense, and so that made me get back involved with society, if you will, and trying to get this guy elected. We didn't fail. We didn't succeed in the election, but we certainly made a huge dent in heading in the right direction. And I cannot wait for 2024. And so now I'm here talking to society from my property through a microphone, and I like it that way better.
What was that like, that decision to make the move from, a more densely populated area to where you are now? Was that a hard call? Like, was everybody on board with it? The family and everything?
Well, it's interesting when it was automation. I'm telling you, my life is circled around automation, and so when I automated away my office staff, and we have nothing but time. And we're thinking, okay, why are we still sending our kids to school? I completely disagree with the curriculum and the method in which they teach. So I hate the way they're teaching and what they're teaching. So, we just got together. We pulled the kids out of school. We start homeschooling them. And then we said, well, we're kind of bored now. Everything's running itself. Let's go travel. All right. So we loaded up and we traveled. We hit every state in the union. We spent months on the road and talked to people, just had a great time, and realized not everyone's a jerk in this country. In LA, yeah, New York, sure, Chicago, absolutely. But when you get into the meat, you know, the middle, the flyover states, the ones that everybody ignores, man, the places are beautiful. It's wide open spaces. People are great. And we got back to, you know, I've lived in 18th floor high rise in downtown LA, worked on the financial district off of Wilshire, moved down to the suburbs of Laguna Niguel down there in South Orange County. So, you know, we tasted all kinds of different life. When we got back to Laguna Niguel, just kind of looked around and it just felt enclosed. Our neighbors are so close, you know, and housing is, I mean, it's not easy to get into. It's not hard to get into a 7-figure housing out there. And we just figured, what the hell are we doing, you know? And it was absolutely a family call. We said, absolutely, let's go pick a place on the map and check it out. Thought it would have been Colorado. We loved Colorado. Thought it would have been upstate New York. And just by happenstance, saw a place up here in Idaho. And we came up here, spent 3 weeks, and said, okay, this is where we're going to live. Bye, California.
Wow. And was it hard from a kind of business and earnings point of view, or are you able to continue working in kind of remotely, or how does that work?
Oh, by that time, I had already had years of experience in running the entire company remotely. So even when I was in Orange County, you know, our you know, physical office is still 60 miles away, and again, we spent months on the road traveling. So as long as I had internet connection, nothing changes. So that's the whole point. It's like, then why stay somewhere? I mean, we slashed our living expenses to a third of what we were spending before. Income's the same. So, you know, it was just the easiest decision in the world.
Yeah. A lot of people are making predictions around this long-term trend of people potentially moving away from these very expensive cities into that, you know, more kind of other areas, partly because now with the shelter in place stuff, a lot of us are realizing like, well, we can still get the same work done or pretty darn close. And, you know, we don't have to sit for an hour and a half in traffic each way and, you know,
exactly
go to the big office. Do you think that's going to happen, or do you think after COVID is hopefully behind us, we'll go back to where we were, or do you think we've gone in a different direction?
Well, I know that it will happen. I mean, people will start to scatter from the cities. And that's one of my arguments when people try to tell me, well, what about rents? Aren't rents going to go up by $1,000 once you start getting $1,000 UBI? And, you know, that's the UBI argument 101, kind of the romper room argument that we all were faced with when we all first started this. So we can kind of do it with one eye and one hand tied behind our back. But it's mobility. You know, when you have mobility with technology and with a couple of dollars in your pocket that you can buy bread and, you know, slap some fruit in the kid's mouth and everyone's going to live. Why would you stay somewhere where, you know, some people love the excitement of the city. I sure as hell did. I mean, in my 20s, loved it. I mean, you couldn't get me out of the city. And but, you know, as people go through different stages in life, perhaps you're when you start to have kids, that's a big deal. And, you know, you just want something slower, quieter, less stressful. And I mean, you know, look behind me. There's not a drop of stress there. We don't own a face mask. You know, I haven't seen a face mask. So nothing has changed for us, except the news has gone nuts. It seems everybody else in the country has gone nuts. But, you know, hey, nothing has changed for us up here. Not one bit.
Dennis, what about your political kind of odyssey? Did you grow up pretty conservative or liberal, or how did your kind of political beliefs evolve over time?
I mean, lifelong Republican, but, you know, kind of an apolitical family. You know, I grew up in the time of Alex P. Keaton. You and I are probably similar age. And
yeah.
You know, I
he was
always,
the hero.
yeah, that Republican, you know, Ronald Reagan type thing. I'm going to make all the money in the world and, you know, all that good stuff. We're moving on up, baby. And so that very well could have been, you know, psychologically speaking, the beginning of conservatism. And so I just pretty much voted my whole life, you know, down the line, just like all of us. We pick a line, you know, when we're in our early adulthood, and we just vote that color, and we don't really pay much thought to it, which is, you know, ignorant. Once you get out of your bubble like I have, it sure seems ignorant. It's irritating to see, and that's why I kind of had made it not even kind of. It's now my life mission to speak with people as often as I can, to try to pop that bubble, to not just say the other side is wrong and bad. And there's a whole new dynamic, and we have to look at economics. And the right doesn't work, the left doesn't work. It's not going to work. We need something new. And I'm telling you, Andrew Yang, that is new. And everything he said just tore my soul. I was like, that is where I belong. This guy needs to be president. And again, I'm very saddened to see that it didn't happen this time. But 2024 is ours, so we're going to take it.
So if you go back to 2016, I guess given your handle, Trumper4Yang, you sounds like you voted for President Trump. Was that a hard call, or was that a pretty easy one for you at that time?
Have you met Hillary Clinton?
I have not. I am aware. Her reputation precedes her. Yeah. So for you, it was a anti-Hillary vote, or were you pro-Trump?
That's more of a joke. You just don't want to come up missing if you don't vote for Hillary. It was more of a joke. We were actually traveling. We were in New Hampshire during the election season. We're in D.C., New York. And, we were there watching it. We were driving through the Rust Belt. And I mean, and when I say driving through, we weren't in a hurry. We drove through. We stayed weeks if we liked a spot, we stayed weeks. We went and we talked to locals. I mean, we got to know people, and that's something that everybody in this country, I wish that they had the luxury of doing that, because once you meet people, you realize there are no Republicans and there are no Democrats. They think they are. They're just people. We agree 90% of the time, but you put two humans together, then we start showing off. We start virtue signaling. We start standing up for principles that we don't necessarily believe in, that we heard about on the news, that we've been told that we need to do. But anyway, I digress. We were down in D.C. When Trump opened up his hotel, the old post office building. So it was not a difficult decision for me to vote for Trump in 2016. What he was two middle fingers in the air to everything that reeked of anything establishment. The Republican establishment, Democrat, mainstream media. He had his both middle fingers in the air at all of them, and everybody hated him. And we needed a change. And whatever that change is, kick the bull in the butt and point him to the China shop. And that's what we got out of Trump, and that's what we continue to get out of Trump. And, if you want some nice people to come and fix all the China in the shop, dust off everything and get it just as beautiful as it was in 2015, Biden's your man.
And so what are you hoping for in 2020?
Well, I would hope for an Andrew presidency, but obviously we're not going to get that. So the best thing that we can do in 2020, if you're talking presidential race wise, would be like I always say, Trump 2020 equals Yang 2024. Because if a Democrat was to win in 2020, goodbye to any possibility of a Yang presidency for years. And I understand people say, "Oh, well, Biden's so old. He already alludes to." Some people say that he has said that he's not going to go for a second term, but he's never said that. He's alluded to that fact. You still have an incumbent VP that a Democrat would have to win over. And guys, that's not going to happen. I mean, dust off the history books. When's the last time that happened? And I'll wait for the answer. So if a Democrat was to win, Joe Biden, I hear, is the favorite over here. And if Biden miraculously wins, we will not have an opportunity for an Andrew Yang presidency for many years.
What's your thoughts on President Trump's performance so far, and how you think he would do in a second 4-year term? Do you feel like there's any risk that he could actually make things worse, or do you feel like, well, it'll just sort of pass time and 2024 will around and we'll welcome Andrew in? I personally feel like he's very erratic and not confidence inspiring. So that's what, for me, another 4 years of Trump would be really hard to swallow.
Well, let me ask you a question. What in the first 4 years has gone horribly wrong, and what in the next 4 years could go horribly wrong under Trump? And remember, he didn't cause the virus nor race wars.
Well, I would say for one thing, the tax cuts and the growth in the debt for kind of questionable returns. As a previous, many decades Republican, I do believe that if you're going to take people's money in the form of taxes, you should really spend it in a very appropriate way. And if you're going to cut taxes, then you should also cut spending. And we didn't see that. So that's number one. Number two is probably, I've never seen our country so divided. I mean, it got bad under Obama, but I feel like it's never been, I mean, it's just visceral how people are looking at each other like enemies and not Americans. As if you're not on my team, you're somehow, anti-patriotic, or you can't be a real American if you're for the other team.
Sure. And what percentage would you apply to that to the mainstream media, and what percentage would you apply that to Trump?
Oh, I mean, I think they enable each other. I think Trump gets it going, and then the mainstream media amplifies it. But I think he does it knowing that the mainstream media will amplify it. He's no sort of innocent bystander in all of this. And ultimately, like, if you're in the Oval Office and when you say, certain things that the mainstream media is going to blow it out of proportion, a rational person would be like, well, I need to be really careful about what I say because this stuff is going to be inflamed. The third thing is I'm very unimpressed with his team. And, is you having experience in the private sector team's really important. Capable people are really important. He started with like Cohn, and he started with, McMaster and Mattis and all these and Kelly, and pretty impressive guys. I may not agree with them on policy for everything, but they're no joke. But I feel like the team he's got left is pretty weak. So for the first 4 years, I would say those are things that give me great pause. And I feel like the trajectory is not encouraging, and that I feel like he's getting more unhinged as each year. And so I worry that if he got a second term, he wouldn't have a lot of incentive to rein it in even further, because he might even feel like he has a mandate to do whatever the heck he wants. But you're not as concerned, or I don't know, maybe you are, but you think it's worth the risk, or?
No, I'm clearly not as concerned as you seem to be, because I asked you in the first 4 years what went wrong, and your answer was tax cuts.
Well, and deficit, team, and complete polarization of the country.
Well, the polarization again. I can't. I'm certainly not going to give Trump a pass, but he came out swinging at the media, and the media came out swinging at him. And this is back to 2015. The media loved him before he said, "Hey, I'm going to run for president," and all the establishment people said, "Hey, wait a minute, we don't want this guy." And so, of course, the mainstream media is owned by the establishment, and so they started attacking. So, the vitriol that many people feel towards Trump, I feel towards the mainstream media. And it's not just me. I understand that people on the left speak with people on the left, and they think that they are all kumbaya, and all the world disagrees with Trump. But there's another side. There's a whole other half of the country that feels just as strong, if not stronger, in the opposite direction. And, that's what I'm here to try to bridge the gap to. And I want Democrats to talk to Republicans. I want Republicans to talk to Democrats, because guess what? We're not all racists. I mean, hell, you've seen me being called a racist, firsthand. And it's just, it's laughable, and it's angering, hurtful, all that crap. But, we're Republicans, so we're supposed to be tough and just be able to take this stuff. But the end of the day, we just need to chill out. We need to talk to each other and realize Trump isn't as bad as you guys have been told. Okay. If you actually watch for yourselves and don't look at it through the filter of the mainstream media, and I'm not talking to you because I know that you're smart and informed and take this stuff seriously and spend a lot of time on it. Talking about the Democratic Party as a whole. And the same thing with the Republicans. You know, you can't just put the American flag in the back of your diesel truck and you'll America all day. You know, shut up, talk. You know, there's two sides to the story. But I digress back to my question in that polarization. Sure, the media and Trump did that with their little slap fight. Deficit spending, higher debt. Give me a president that didn't do that. And yes, I know Clinton during the dot-com bubble. I was there firsthand, making money off of that. So, and then a tax cut. Yeah, did the tax cut go, unfortunately, disappropriately to the wealthy? Absolutely, and it was a big disappointment. But to me, those negatives that you listed for the first 4 years, it just doesn't scream of a terrible president.
What do you think he did anything good? Like, what do you think if we flipped it around, what did he do with his 4 years that made America greater?
Well, presidents don't really make big changes in our country. I know that we think that they do, but they don't. When we get somebody like Andrew, he will, because he'll be able to work with people and get UBI done, and that's a big deal. But what Trump has done, Trump's come in and cut regulation. And I know what lefties immediately would say is, oh, my God, the environment, right? So, guys, there's some regulation in this country that can be cut, and he's cutting it. He's done some good things with criminal reform. He ran on saying that he was going to pull some troops out, and he has failed me on that. I want to see us pulling troops out. I want to see us lowering our footprint with bases. We don't need to have this superior strength anymore. I mean, we keep pissing off the world like we are. We might, but maybe we can ease up on that as well. But he's made NATO pay more. On the left, if you listen to the mainstream media, you think that we're the laughing stock of the world. If you listen to the world's media, they don't say the same thing. I mean, you're over there in Switzerland. I mean, is your local media, they're trashing Trump all the time, or do they just say that the United States president did this, and that's it? It's news. It's not like the American news.
Yeah, I would say the international media here, or the media that I'm familiar with here in Europe, is they don't trash Trump all the time. But I will say this, that I always find it interesting that Trump talks about how before he became president, America was the laughing stock of the world, and now the world respects us. But I can tell you, like, at least in terms of Zurich, London, Singapore, Tokyo, people in those places are really not impressed with Trump. He comes across very immature and erratic and kind of narcissistic and not statesman-like. But honestly, I don't really care that's not a top priority of mine to have other countries, admire us. But I do think it's a good
thing comparatively. If you look at everybody else in the world and then say, hey, is everybody reacting to this guy like we are? Or are we just this hotbed of craziness that's full of hatred and saying, oh, my God, he's racist. He eats babies for breakfast. My God, this guy is the Antichrist. We're the only ones. It's the mainstream media, and that's it. So it's useful comparatively speaking. I'm not trying to create more sheepish behavior. But it's I think it's important to look outside to the rest of the world and see how they react to the American president, as they would more refer to him, as opposed to just the evil Trump like the American media does.
So let me ask you this, Dennis. You come across as a really thoughtful, considered person. When you hear him speak or read what he writes, I listen to it and I read it and I'm shocked. I'm like, how is this person the president of the United States of America, a person who like screams in capital letters on Twitter all day long and then goes on. I was watching the Fox News interview. It was with Spicer. It was on some other channel. And it seems like he's not able to structure logical arguments with a beginning, a middle, and an end. It just seems like the stream of consciousness. And that worries me. that he's not a problem solver that thinks kind of systematically. What's your take? I know I accept your point that, well, look, these presidents are not omnipotent, but they do make decisions. They need to think through nuance and be able to, you know, structure an argument. Do you feel like he's got it, or what's your take?
Well, I said before that we wanted a bull in the China shop, and the last time I checked, bulls aren't, they don't sip tea with you. I mean, is Trump an asshole? Yeah. Newsflash, guys, Trump's an asshole. Sorry, you know, what do you want me to do about that? Does he say stupid things in tweets? He certainly does. When he says stupid stuff like put the word thug in a tweet, I think that is really damaging and completely unnecessary, because we all kind of know what the hell that means. And, you know, that's the kind of thing that he really needs to chill out about. But, you know, I hate to always be in defense of Trump, but all around me, you know, because I'm over here swimming with the sharks, right, in the Democrat lane, and I've done this to myself, and I've chosen to do it. So I put myself in the middle of these arguments, and people say that I'm just a Trump apologist and I'm always making excuses. Well, that's because I'm hanging out with Democrats, and Democrats are always crapping on them. So, you know, I've got to have a retort, and the retorts are valid, and maybe all the crap isn't valid. I mean, would you say that perhaps Trump gets a little extra dose of vitriol that perhaps he doesn't necessarily deserve at all?
Yes, I actually would. I mean, if you take out the name Trump and you just look at the policies,
yes,
and you're like, okay, let's make believe that there was some Republican president and he cut a bunch of taxes and he cut a bunch of regulation, and he renegotiated a bunch of trade deals. You would be like, oh, you know, maybe I wouldn't do that, but that doesn't sound shocking to me. I do think one of the most powerful things a president can do is set the tone and provide a vision and ideally bring the country together. And I think in those categories, like, he really does a terrible job. He almost does the opposite. Like, he creates this tone of, you know, American against American. I mean, the way he's handled the George Floyd stuff, I'm still waiting for the, you know, Oval Office address talking about how we have to come together and how both perspectives deserve recognition. And there is a middle ground here that we as a country can work towards. But I feel like he just pours gas on it, just saying, like, if there's looting, there's shooting, and, you know, law and order, and, you know, it's all Antifa and all, and there's a conspiracy and there's plants, and so all this stuff that seems to just pull us apart.
It just goes back to Trump's an asshole. I mean, that's not his role. I'm sorry. Again, the bull pulls things apart. He doesn't put them together. And look, we were all together, you know, again, singing Kumbaya for the past 20 years. What did that get us? What did that get us? That got us globalization. That got us not making widgets. We have kids and poor people make widgets in other countries that we can pay very little, and so we can buy a bunch of crap. That's what we've done. That's what Kumbaya does. Maybe we need to be pulled apart a little bit so we get to thinking. Have you thought more about politics in these past 4 years than you ever have in your life? I sure as hell have. So, you know, if it gets us thinking, maybe it's a good thing. You know, it's that medicine that perhaps we needed. It's that when we're crying about something stupid and someone comes and smacks us in the face and says, "Hey, stop crying." Okay, let's stop crying. Let's start thinking. What we need to do in this country is stop the globalization. Okay, we need to kill NAFTA, which he has already done, USMCA. We need to get manufacturing jobs back in this country. I know that sounds weird coming from an AI automation guy, but we need the infrastructure. We don't need the bodies. We need infrastructure put back in this country. That brings us bodies. That brings us jobs in the short term. We're going to automate away those jobs, but damn it, we need the infrastructure and we need the systems in place that's going to allow this country to profit off of that. If we injected AI into the situation right now, who profits? We don't profit. China profits, right? They make all the widgets, and now at Walmart, your $10 item is now $1. Yippee-ki-yay, right? But we're not making the product. We're not making the widget. We need to do that. We need to bring the manufacturing back, which is what we're doing right now. And you get Biden in there, you know, I'll flip the tables. I've done 30 minutes now of excuses for Trump. Sell me on Biden, sir. The floor is yours.
All right, sure.
He's a great guy.
I think Steve Marchand put it best when he said that Biden would be a transitional president and that we would basically restore a little bit of normalcy to the Oval Office. We would probably improve healthcare through a sort of a better version of the ACA. We would probably have more tax relief for the working class and middle class, or maybe even a UBI pilot in some states. And we would probably have cabinet secretaries that are very well regarded and thoughtful and, you know, capable. And as far as I'm concerned, the best thing is we would not have to worry when we got up in the morning about what crazy action our president is taking or saying or firing or, you know, flying on a plane to, you know, have tea with North Korea. Like these are just erratic actions that, to me, Biden is a risk mitigation choice. It's not I think he's coming in on a white horse. It's that there's a crazy man on a wild horse, and I need him out of here.
North Korea is arguably a much better situation than it was 4 years ago. And I'm sorry, I've got a son, 24-year-old in Hawaii. I don't know if you recall this, but when they said a nuclear bomb is imminent to the island, we got that call. We got a goodbye call. We were scared. That could have easily been from North Korea. It's exactly what we went to. North Korea just killed my kid. Okay. This shit's real, sorry, to some people. Okay. And if you really get in the trenches, in the weeds, and you start to think about this stuff, did Trump call him Little Rocket Man and almost make me drop my phone in shock? He sure did. Fire and fury. Oh my God. But guess what? Kim Jong-un responded. No more testing. Tell me that that's not a better situation than what we had going in. And yeah, we can all say it's dumb luck. A bully gets it right every once in a while, but damn it, this is right. It got it right. And risk mitigation, my risk mitigation is to not let things go back to status quo. We're not in status quo land. We're in automation land. We're in a transforming economy land. If we get Biden in office, we're going to, I mean, what tax cuts? So, you know, Obama famously did great tax cuts. Absolutely not. Biden, you can basically compare to Obama to what Hillary would do. The status is our enemy at this point. And I understand that everybody thinks because Trump's a big meanie that he's going to blow up countries. He's not going to blow up countries. And we can't go back to the status quo. We have to be prepared for a changing economy. And this isn't just money from the Republican guy. We all know about deaths of despair and all of these types of things. And guess what's going to happen if all of a sudden we aren't producers during the next economy, and we have mass unemployment? You know, what's the country going to look like at that point when we continue with this silly globalization idea that we had under Obama?
So with regards to North Korea, I don't have a problem with presidents experimenting with different directions in terms of foreign policy. I have a problem with it being done impulsively. And my understanding is that many of his senior staff, you know, it was a surprise to them that that the summit would take place. Normally, you know, there's months and months of preparation so to make sure that you get something out of it. So to me, the fact that Hawaii is still, you know, existing and hasn't been attacked is not some great victory of Trump's. Like, Hawaii was never attacked under any other president.
Oh, stop it now. Don't make a silly argument. Of course, that's not what I said.
Well, you were saying that, hey, your son, you know, you were worried that he was going to get attacked, and because of this summit, somehow that didn't happen. Are
Well,
you saying that had Hillary been in office, that North Korea would have bombed Hawaii?
Do you think that there would be a larger festering wound in North Korea that wouldn't have been resolved by the time that false warning went out? That when Obama handed the keys to Trump and he told him your biggest problem is going to be North Korea, except for, of course, his CIA and FBI, but he didn't tell Trump that part. But that was a festering wound. How would that wound look under basically 4 more years of Obama, which would have been Hillary?
Why do you feel like that wound has been cleaned?
Well, it sure feels like it's been cleaned. You don't think that we're in a better position with Kim Jong-un than we were before?
I don't know. I mean, all they did was they met. He gave Kim Jong-un a great PR win for his domestic politics, and we got nothing.
He's not testing nuclear weapons.
Oh, well, apparently he is already been reconstructing. I mean, I don't know. I'm not there either, but I've read reports that it is it's a game that the North Koreans always play with us, and they always dangle a deal, and then they go back to their old ways. Ultimately,
come on, Tom, you can do it. You can say, hey, things in North Korea do look better under Orange Man Bad, even slightly better.
I don't know. I think the only way we're going to know is probably in the next 5 years. Because remember that they did complete a lot of key tests to kind of demonstrate their capabilities. So the need to do tests every month is partly just to bring us to the table. So the fact that they're not doing tests now, I don't know if that means that Hawaii is that much safer. I will grant you this. There haven't been any huge public tests, but remember, we're trying to compare this to an alternative that we don't know what would have happened under a Democratic president. It's not clear to me that had Hillary been president, they would have been testing every other day. In fact, I'm pretty sure she would have been pretty hawkish with them on it.
Oh, I don't think she would have been hawkish at all. I mean, because they fight back. She only is hawkish against countries that aren't able to fight back.
All right. So you're feeling good about North Korea. What do you think about the global climate change, the Paris Accords? Feeling good that we left that?
Well, I feel like we're a very small contributor to climate change. And I feel that if we slow our economy down again in this time of change, that we lose to China and the world loses. If we stop what we're doing, okay, we slow it down, let's go ahead and take AOC, stop all the cow farts and don't get on an airplane, right? Our economy takes a dive. We stop, again, the widgets that we do make here drastically slow down. Our economy slows down. China could give a rat's ass. They're going to keep doing what they do to make money, right? They're going to keep investing their money, both public and private, in growing their economy like they have. They have, as you know, China has visions of decades where we have visions of weeks. And if we let our economy slow down because we're so focused on the cow farts and the airplanes, China doesn't care. They're going to keep ramping up. They're going to then sell their coal plants and all of that to Africa. That they don't care. They just want the power. China will have AI, 5G. They will own tech. We will not. They will own the marketplace in the world. We will not. So the global implication of that in the future, if we can now use our same goggles that China uses, probably made in China, and we can look a couple of decades in advance, maybe it's better for us to continue on the track that we are. I say invest even more in AI, kind of like what China does. Let's build some massive server farms and let corporations use those server farms. Let's advance. Let's also advance, not just China. And so I guess that's just the answer to your question is, yeah, it's low hanging fruit, and again, I know lefties, they lose their minds when you say things like this about climate change, but we're going to be able to tech our way out of it. And you're a tech guy. And I think that you probably, I don't want to be presumptuous, but I would probably say that you feel that we'll be able to tech our way out of it as well, if as long as we keep technology going in the right way.
Yeah, I mean, I hope we tech our way out of it. I think the risk is that, you know, like with any problem, there's going to be a minimum amount of time to come up with a solution, and people will debate how much time we have. But my take is most scientists believe that we've got, you know, years, maybe a decade, but not decades. And so if the concern about the climate, the Paris Accords was that, hey, China was getting too good of a deal. I get that. Then renegotiate it and push hard for it, but don't just walk away. You know, just don't just take your ball and walk away, which is why I think Trump did. Like I haven't heard him say a thing about how to address climate change, other than say like he doesn't believe it. Like, so to me, like if the position is like, we don't think this is a real thing, then okay, fine. That's super logical. Then let's not cut our economy for it. But if you believe it's a real thing and you just say, well, then this thing that Obama did, I don't think that's a good deal, then you got to come up with a better one, right?
It's the art of the deal. He walked away. I read the art of the deal when I was a teenager. So he walked away. Like you, the world isn't going to catch fire because Trump backed out of the Paris Accords. It's just not going to happen. And are we going to come back and work together as a world to get out of this? We certainly will. And again, we're going to tech our way out of it. I know I keep saying it, but that's exactly what's going to happen. It's either that or everybody move to the hills, to the mountains in Idaho. I did my part. What are you doing? I'm on solar. I've got a deep water well. We live off the land for the most part. Still love Walmart though. Thank you, China. But you know, we can't just keep screaming climate change. The world's going to burst on fire in the next 10 years. Al Gore told me that in '98. No fire. And God, I hope that doesn't sound ignorant to people, because I am for science. Okay, I'm not a stupid person. I'm an informed person, and we've been having these same warnings for quite a long time. The scientific community is in agreement that it's changing, but the scientific community is not in agreement that it's 7 to 10 years away before we all meet some kind of natural disaster.
So you don't feel like the fires in Australia or California, or, you know, like the kind of rising water levels, or you think that's just, you know, normal fluctuations like we've always had?
Well, if you go historically speaking, you know, of course, I mean, we have ice ages and they melt. I mean, that's, you know, that of course is a factual statement that is normal. Are we accelerating it because we keep throwing carbon up into the air? I would say, of course. You know, I mean, I'm not a scientist, but I can read. You know, I can read the studies, and the studies make sense to me. You know, I always look for the funding, look for the money, and see where the scientists are coming from. Certainly wish they weren't coming from universities, but you know, that's a whole other argument that we probably don't have time for today. But you know, to be so stuck on climate change, I think clouds the real problems in front of us, and the real problems in front of us are hey, let's Star Trek this damn place. All right, let's get better. Okay, let's get better with our technology, and then we'll be able to suck that carbon right out. All right, we'll fix this thing. And that's what we're going to do. We're not going to fix this thing by slowing down. And you know, that's it's just one I guess a different argument than what would be on the left. I would turn the tables to you. What would you do? Go back and say, hey, Paris guys, we were just kidding about that. I know we're 15% of global emissions, and we feel really bad about that. But here's what we're willing to do. Oh yeah, keep giving the kudos over there to China. They really need the assistance. I don't know what the left's answer is either, besides let's get back together and talk. More meetings. Meetings are great. Meetings.
I mean, I guess I would have expected him, if I were concerned about equity in terms of each country's participation, I probably would have said, look, we all agree that this is a global problem. We might disagree on the rates of change, but I think everyone here knows that our countries are contributing to it at different levels. Number one, we as America are not the number one contributor, but we are in the top 5 at a minimum. And we see ourselves as a leader and a thought leader for this international community. So here's what we need to do. We need to come up with a way to bend this curve of climate change. And it's going to take participation from everyone. And we honestly feel that this deal that China and India have is insufficient. And for us to participate, we're going to need them to work towards similar goals. We acknowledge their economies are not as developed as ours, but there has to be a closing of the gap here. And here's what we're comfortable doing. You know, let's make this happen. But I don't feel like he did that. I think he just like left. He just said, I'm not talking anymore, as far as I can tell. Like, I've never heard him pound his fist on the table about the need for a better climate change deal the way he does about, you know, NATO defense budgets. Like, clearly on some things, he's willing to really turn the knife, but I don't think he prioritizes it, which is, you know, I guess it's fine if you don't believe climate change is a big problem. And if you believe that we have lots of time to fix it. But in that case, Dennis, I would rather have him say something like what you're saying, which is like, look, this is a problem. We can tech our way out of it. Of all of the things that we're faced with, this is not one of my top 3. Then I would be like, all right, well, I don't agree with him, but he's like logically consistent.
Well, Costco has paper straws now, so we're good.
All right, let's Dennis, let's shift gears a little bit and talk about Yang 2020. Do you think there was this outcome that we're in now was avoidable, or is this sort of like, well, you know, it's like the first time a new NFL team, you know, tries to go to the Super Bowl, it's not gonna happen, and they need a few seasons to really build a team out, or do you think like there was a way for us to really shock the country?
Well, sticking with sure, in keeping with the NFL analogy, you're asking me to Monday morning quarterback, and that is so easy because we can always be right with that old 2020. It was an immature campaign, right? Fantastic idea is the right messenger, and it was an immature campaign. And we went in there and we paid for some maturity. The maturity led us in the wrong direction. You know, hey, Andrew, we all loved you. You have the best ideas. Act like them. What the hell is that? Okay. I wholly disagree with that approach. So the fact is 2020 is done. We can learn our lessons from that, and we're going to be more mature. Andrew told me himself that he knows now more about how to handle the media, and especially the local media on the Hill. And, you know, that is, man, he got his master's, you know, he got his master's in how to do this thing. And we're going to do so much better in 2024. My main thing is I want to make sure that we have that opportunity to take it in 2024. And I know people say, well, you know, there's other politicians, there's other people that can run on this platform. No, there's not. Okay, I'm no spring chicken. Neither are you. May I be so presumptuous?
Yeah,
I've seen presidents come and go. I've seen candidates come and go. Man, we got some youngsters here that I think they just think that this kind of happens all the time. Guys, this is a once in a lifetime candidate. And, you know, I don't want people shifting from thinking, oh, well, we can just get somebody else to run on UBI. Andrew's a good guy. He's an honest guy, and he needs to be our president. And he has the right policies. You know, I mean, you know, I disagree with some of our leading people that we all know and love about the funding mechanisms of UBI. Andrew has it right. Okay. And we just need to fight for Andrew. We need to learn our lessons from 2020 and apply them to 2024. And I know I keep saying this, but damn it, Trump 2020 equals Yang 2024. And I know you love seeing that in your chats, but you know, got to deliver the message, brother.
When you say immaturity in the 2020 campaign, do you think that was Andrew as a presidential candidate, his team, or his supporters, or is it all of the above? Like, where are some examples where you're like, yeah, if we could do it all over again, or when we do it in 2024, we're going to do it differently, blank? Like, in what way?
No, I think it's both Andrew and the team. I would put the team first, Andrew second. But Andrew learned a lot, like I said. And, look, he was just a normal dude before all this. I mean, he had $1 million, but I know people with a hell of a lot more money than that. And I certainly wouldn't think that they're going to go run for president and get as far as he did. What he did was astronomical. And what we did as Yang Gang is astronomical. So, no, I wouldn't say that Yang Gang handled anything incorrectly. We got an 8-figure quarter. I mean, my God, you guys, I'm telling you again, I hate to pull out this whole old thing, but man, I've been around a long time and I've seen a lot of stuff. Mm-hmm. You don't pull 8-figure quarters on some random dude. Okay. So what we did was astronomical. His message is astronomical. His messaging is going to get better, and his team is going to get better. And what he needs is better people screaming in his ear on both sides of the head.
All right. Well, we're now going to move on to audience questions, Dennis.
So
we got about 10 minutes ish. I think people are being pretty respectful.
I love it either way. If people get pissed off at me, it means they're thinking. So call me Trump.
Here's a question from Laura Lane, who's a channel member. Thanks for your support, Laura. When you say tech our way out of climate change, are you thinking nuclear is a big part of that, or do you have a view?
It's one of the forks in the drawer. Absolutely. It's not just nuclear that I'm leaning on, but we do need to lean on nuclear. And even if it's not the amazing thorium, testing and all of that stuff, we have nuclear, and it's, you always have to say relatively, but it's relatively safe and it's effective. And so, it blows me away when you see people on the left screaming about, the environment, but they're not for nuclear. Then what are you for? Again, you're for meetings. Let's go have meetings. We're going to meet our way out of this. So to answer your question, nuclear is part of it, but there's other technologies that we can work on and that we can invest in to help solve this thing.
Right on. What would be the deal breaker for you with Andrew Yang? You seem like a pretty strong backer of Andrew. What are some things that you have to see in 2024, and you're assuming you will, that are just like, non-negotiable? Like, of course, if you don't have one of these things, you'd actually seriously consider supporting someone else.
Well, and I appreciate the question. And hi, I see you on YouTube and Twitter all the time. It's almost an impossible question to ask, because it's like, what would make me hate Tom? If I saw Tom beat up an old lady because he wanted the lollipop she had, I'd say, Tom, I kind of hate you, bro. That sucks. I thought I liked you. There's all kinds of things that could make you hate somebody or turn on somebody or, be the quote unquote deal breaker. But, again, it's a very difficult question to answer. Or if it was phrased, maybe, if he started a war with somebody, would that be a deal breaker? And, quite honestly, it probably would. Man, I am so for the troops out. We need to lower our spending on our military. We need to stop messing around with other countries just because they have stuff we want. I mean, you saw, okay, Trump's done a couple of good things on the foreign policy aspect. He tried a coup by tweet. I didn't like that. I've never seen coup by tweet with Venezuela before. That was interesting. Great job, Donnie. What the hell were you thinking there, bro? But he also pulled our troops out of Syria. And then what happened? The media, the left, they lost their minds. All of a sudden, everybody fell in love with a Kurd. Like, everybody grab your Kurd. We all love the Kurds now, right? And everyone's, wait, what's Kurd? And everybody became professionals on Kurds. That's what's going to happen. You're going to get the retired generals on mainstream media crapping all over any president that starts to pull out troops, because guess what? That's where the money is. And we've been warned by presidents decades ago to watch out for the military-industrial complex and the deep state. And that's exactly what we're dealing with now, and you see it when everybody fell in love with the Kurd.
Do you think we spend the right amount, too much, too little on defense spending?
Oh, way too much. Not even close.
Yeah. Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I feel like we still think it's like the Cold War and we need like this massive arsenal. But, of course, I'm no dove. I feel like we need to be able to defend ourselves, but we don't need to spend like 10 times more than the next 3 countries kind of thing.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. So Yamashita has another question, which is like, all right, let's say we buy your argument that Trump 2020 equals Yang 2024. Then what happens for the next 4 years?
It's a placeholder, we get some funny tweets. We don't proliferate globalization, and it's a placeholder. Look, guys, I'm out of here, getting away from you people. All right, let society fight it out. I already saw the problems on the horizon. I'm only back here. I mean, what the hell am I doing on YouTube? I mean, I'm an introvert like nobody's business. I'm here on YouTube, Twitter, talking to people all damn day. What am I doing? It's because I see something that is going to change the world. It's going to change the world for your kids and my kids, and that's exactly what we need to do. And that's just, damn it, it's Andrew Yang. That's it. It's Andrew Yang. So what's going to happen in the next 4 years? Placeholder.
All right. Laura Lane, another channel member, says, if the enemy is the status quo, then if Yang runs as a Democrat, won't he just be sucked in to the system? And should he therefore run as an independent?
God, it's such a great question. And I ran the numbers on this, and I tweeted this out probably 3 weeks ago, how much I think it would cost to run as an independent, and not as an independent, but actually start a third party. It's about 1.3, and that's a lot of money, right? And so we can get 1.3. We can't get it from our current friends, right? At Jack, we're close, right? But we could get that from Elon, where are you, buddy? So with Jack's money power, and if we can get some Elon money power, we could run as third party. But you know what? It's I guess that's just one of those dare to dream things. We stand a better chance of doing exactly what Andrew's doing. And he's playing nice with the Dems, right? The DNC. He's yay Biden. We need to get this guy out of office. He's towing the line. He's doing the dance. I hate to see it, but at the same time, I'm saying, God damn it, good job, bro. Keep doing what you're doing. I mean, I challenged him. I put the question to him right to his face and said, hey, if Biden wins, where are you at? You're screwed. And he did the perfect party dance. And you know what? He did the right thing. So the answer to the question is, oh man, if he could run Republican, I would love it. But anyway, the answer to the question is stick with the Dems. We run in 24 as a Democrat. This is why I love Andrew so much, because I think that he is no person is uncorruptible, but he's about as close as one could find. And I think Tom would probably agree with me on that. He's just a good guy, not a very corruptible person. Yeah,
completely agree. And I think one thing we both agree on, Dennis, is that if we had Yang in the White House and he pushed some of the key proposals like the freedom dividend and democracy dollars, even if he got just the dividend, it could be a game changer. And it's interesting, living in Europe, a lot of people that I've talked to here have said, oh, wow, that Andrew Yang, like he's got some new ideas, and they're very curious to see, like, if it'll work out, because we're not the only country that has issues around job kind of security and income inequality and just sort of like the changing economy. So before we wrap up, Dennis, I did want to ask you, for people who are listening, and I'm sure most people know of you already, but for those who are not as familiar with you and want to kind of keep track of you and hear more of your thoughts, how can they best find you out there?
You can just watch the YouTube channel. I mean, Twitter is Twitter. Twitter's just little war of slap fights, you know. But YouTube is something that I'm very interested in growing, and so you can just go right to Trumper4Yang, and you know, we've got a good 4.5 years here to do something special, guys. And that would be growing channels like mine, growing channels like Tom's. We all need to grow bigger than like the TYTs of the world and things like that that came out of helping Bernie. And Bernie had, you know, crap policies. I mean, terrible ideas. And look how far they got them. So if we can get together, have smart ideas, and propel ourselves forward with a good candidate with great ideas, we're going to change this country. And like Tom just said, the world is watching. Once we change ourselves, the world will change. And I'm telling you, Star Trek, baby, it's going to be a beautiful thing.
Right on. So everybody, you heard it here. Go check out Trumper4Yang's channel on YouTube. He also recently had a great interview with Andrew, so highly recommend it. Subscribe, and let's keep this conversation going, because I think one of the beautiful things about the Yang Gang is we've got people from all different backgrounds, and you know, we can disagree and still be productive and constructive, and because I think we all want the same thing at the end, which is we want the best thing for our kids, and we want our country to be prospering and stable and free. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll get there in 2024.
Absolutely, sir. Buy stock in paper straws.
With that, we're going to say bye, nerds.